What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Glad to be here with you guys. Finally got some time out of my day to sit back and watch some videos with you. So, we're going to be coming back at you with some Star Wars versus Warhammer special short. So, this is between episode 12 and 13. We went back a little bit. Red Eyes, Revelations, and Bucket. I guess we're going to go
Doc.
see what
It's getting late.
Bucket's up to today.
I'm not sure I've ever had a field watch that lasted as long as whatever you're doing right now, the Clone Guardian groaned. He lightly dinged his
Isn't he
helmeted
with
head
Dr.
against the
Shiva?
metal cover over one of the many arrayed supercomputing ports that were lined up, going out for miles in either direction. They were stacked in rows, with hallway space between them for engineers and technicians to access them. Dr. Sheena ignored Bucket, working from her chair,
Sheena.
which she had parked nearly within one of the
Sheena.
maintenance alcoves. Doc, I'm starving over here. Can you at least explain to me what you've been doing for the last, 12 hours? I'm not used to being around someone not talking to them.
What's she
Bucket
been doing?
whined. Sheena took a deep breath, first in and then slowly out. Though her fingers did not cease their tapping, and her eyes, bloodshot and intense, did not blink. Before her were data streams and hollow access points, each laid out and scrolling past at simultaneous interludes which she had set. 8 of her digital proxies were maneuvering within the system, operating at various levels, and all at her direction. Currently, all of them were occupied, each one engaging with the security system of the Senate's communications record cache in one way or another.
I've been trying to slice into the Supreme Chancellor's private communications history.
She murmured,
Why?
dry eyes darting. Bucket slumped at the news and shook his head. Why? Don't you work for the Chancellor? He asked.
We all work for the Supreme Chancellor.
The doctor said, dismissing the comment with barely a thought. Bucket crossed his arms and shook his head more vehemently. I mean, you work with the Supreme Chancellor directly, right? Can't you just ask him to let you see? He suggested. She'd almost paused and found herself laughing. It was the first time she'd laughed in days. But the laughter was not of a genuine sort.
It's because I work with him that I know that would never work. Sure, he will placate me, maybe show me something he wants me to see, but if it's something he doesn't want people to know, then I won't see it. At best, I'll be
She's got a
deceived.
point.
At worst, well, he'll know I know something about something he doesn't want me to know, and I'd rather not make an open enemy of my employer, much less the Supreme Chancellor.
She said.
Because
Bucket tilted his head. And the way you are choosing to not make an enemy of the Supreme Chancellor is by illegally slicing into his holo records.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still not following that one.
Sheena nodded.
More or less.
She said,
Why?
But then why even bother? If he finds out you did this, you'll be his enemy no matter what you find, even if you find nothing, Bucket said. Dr. Sheena nodded and licked some sweat off of her upper lip. She knew that. Of course she knew that. Her heart was beating so fast and had been for all of these 12 hours. She felt exhausted, but nothing she felt now could compare to what she'd felt back on the Honor Hound. Nothing could scare as much as that thing she had seen. That thing that had killed Renfai, killed Gaffin, and everyone else on that ship.
That's why you don't mess
That
with the
thing had
Space
not been
Marines.
human. She was sure of it. It had been too large, too powerful.
So
Eyes still blazed, still watched her from her memory, burning, kindling, judging. Its last words whispered to her in her dreams, in her idle moments, in the maw of silence.
metal.
The natural question then, of course, was, for what? Judgment about what? What was it judging, and why? Why had it judged them all worthy of death?
At least you were
But she
worthy of
had
it.
that answer already, yet while she knew why, she did not know why.
I don't think
Doc?
you ever will.
Asked the clone
Unfortunately.
bodyguard.
Bucket, do you remember what happened right before the battle? There was a situation. One of the enemy ships had come out of hyperspace right in front of the fleet and ahead of its own forces.
Yeah.
It was a huge ship.
She said. Bucket nodded, the
Yeah.
back of his helmet clinking against the casing he leaned against. Though she did not turn to watch him, fingers still in a frenzy, eyes still wide as she worked. I remember, he said.
And then something happened. One of our ships broke ranks. Do you remember that?
She asked, her voice a
Oh, yeah.
breathless whisper, as though she feared she
And then
might
he
be
went
overheard.
kablooey.
Bucket nodded again. Yeah, I remember that. Captain Kraken lost his mind and suicide rammed the enemy ship. We were almost part of the group sent to help evacuate the wreckage.
Hyper speed into
Well, then we
another
would have been in
ship.
trouble, he said.
Ugh.
Good. I'm glad you know that much. But do you know which ship Kraken used to do it?
She asked. The clone shrugged as he answered. Well, I guess it would be his ship. The Honor Hound, he started to say, trailing off, already realizing that made no sense.
It wasn't.
She confirmed for him.
It was a new ship, a modified Venator called the Belajor, which was given over to Renfi just before the mission began. That ship was personally gifted to him by Supreme Chancellor Palpatine.
Well, that's odd, I guess, Bucket said. Sheena nodded, tapping roughly against the glass keys of her chair-mounted
It's a
console.
little strange.
It gets odder. I was on the bridge when it all happened. Kraken was getting our commands, was hearing our transmissions, but he wasn't responding. He chose not to respond. It was like he just...
She started to say, struggling to find the words. Just following orders, Bucket muttered softly.
Exactly. I almost want to say he was in a trance, but if you've seen the holo, then you know how
Orders.
precise that jump needed to be to actually hit its target. Captain Kraken was loose.
Wait. Is she insinuating what I think she's insinuating? It was a gift from Palpatine. Let's keep going.
And
We'll
he was
see.
at the helm, and he used all his skill to cleave that huge ship right down the center.
Said the doctor.
Yeah?
And doing that, fragging moons of frag! Doing that started this whole war in the process, Bucket said, only realizing the implication of the act.
Yes, that's the part
Yeah.
that's obvious, Bucket. But there's just one particular thing that does not add up. Even more than all of these other oddities. One thing that is pushing me to find out more, despite the obvious risk.
Sheena
She
said.
thinks Palpatine's
What's that?
involved.
Asked the clone.
All Republic hyperdrives have inhibitors built into them. Fail-safes that pull the ships out of hyperspace if a sufficient mass shadow is detected in the path of the vessel. These
Probably a
are
good idea.
hardwired, and undoing that safety takes time and equipment. Too much time, in fact.
Bucket paused to consider her words.
Yeah,
But shook his
I
head
guess.
after a while. Well, I still don't get it. The doctor sighed, breathing out her annoyance and increasing the rate of her tapping fingers.
The Belajor was modified for fringe space exploration. Its modifications included non-standard changes to critical systems, the shields, the crew quarters, the life support systems, the navigation sensors, and...
She said,
The
letting the
hyperdrive
last word hang in the air.
inhibitor?
Bucket fumbled with his thoughts for a moment before gasping as the answer struck him. The hyperdrive? He asked.
Precisely! The listed changes appear to make it seem safe enough, but I'm not convinced of that. Not after the Belajor succeeded in accurately throwing itself down the center of that Imperial starship.
Sheena said. Wait, so you think the Supreme Chancellor had already prepared that ship to be used as a suicide ram? Bucket asked, aghast at the very suggestion. Sheena did not answer. She only typed more. Bucket, however, continued. But if that were the case, then wouldn't the order to ram the ship have come from...
And now you know why I need to know. Maybe the ship had a ram feature that Captain Kraken abused, maybe he was drugged, or replaced by a separatist infiltrator, or got...
So let's say, hypothetically, that Palpatine was the ringleader of all this once again, even though he has orchestrated a lot of crazy things in the past. He's the one that could have possibly started this whole war. And for what? I mean, obviously he wants more power, but to start a war against an enemy that not too sure if we can hold a candle to, I don't know. We'll keep going. We'll see.
Got the order from somewhere else, but the simplest answer is often the correct one. And in this case, the simplest explanation is...
Dr. Sheena said before trailing off. A silence started then, and the clone seemed to take his position as lookout much more seriously. Sheena's hovering chair was wired to a nearby console, and while this section of the Senate's labyrinthian technical and maintenance access spaces had been utterly deserted for all the hours that they had spent there thus far, suddenly, everything seemed much less safe than it had been before, at least to the clone.
They're watching.
Doc? Bucket said.
Yes?
She asked. I'm no computer expert, but if you actually managed to break into there, won't there be some sign that you did this? I'm sure you cannot listen to the Supreme Chancellor's personal communications without leaving a footprint.
Don't think you want to make an enemy of the Chancellor at this point.
Well, I wouldn't phrase it quite like that, but yes, which is why I'm not trying to listen to anything.
She said. What are you even looking for? He asked.
Simple.
She said.
A timestamp.
What? He asked. She breathed heavily and prepared herself for another explanation.
To see if
If I can
Palpatine
see if a
sent the
message
order.
was sent and get a timestamp,
Good
then
idea.
I can see if it was just sent before the ramming happened. It won't prove anything, not by itself, but...
But it will be way too convenient to be
Connected
coincidence.
to-
He finished for her. She nodded. But if you find out, and the message was sent, then what next? Who do we tell about something like this? The Jedi? Bucket asked. Sheena almost laughed again.
The Jedi? No. They are either in on it themselves at some level, or, if they are not, they are bound to do something ridiculous. Can you imagine if the Jedi tried to arrest the Chancellor over this? If he really did orchestrate these events, then there is no telling what else he is capable
good
of.
point.
He could tear the Republic apart, and it would be as easy as issuing Order 66 just before his arrest.
She said. Order 66? Asked Bucket. The doctor nodded her head as she continued her work.
It's one of the 150 contingency orders that were drafted at the onset of the Clone Wars. They are supposed to be just for show, but who knows what would happen if he actually issued them.
She said.
What?
So who do we tell, if not the Jedi? The Senate? Bucket
Oh,
asked.
no.
Almost.
No.
She said before one of her screens turned blue, and then all of them followed suit. Dr. Sheena pulled her hands away from the keys abruptly as a new data stream began to fill her view, and she blinked her bloodshot eyes for the first time in too long, wanting to be sure she was reading this correctly, wanting to avoid an error at all costs. Whoa! What was that? Bucket asked, leaning in towards the alcove.
I'm in.
Sheena whispered, eyes scanning frantically. And? Bucket asked, voice tight as he came to watch over her shoulder. Her hands snapped out, tapping a key, and the data stream froze. She lifted her finger to one line, tracing under the holographic script, feeling her heart beat harder and harder as she read it again and again.
There it is.
She said at last.
A private transmission sent from the office of the Chancellor to an unmarked vendor. Unmarked, but within the
So
warfare
it was
we were operating
Palpatine.
within. The message was sent only a few minutes
Or
before the ram. Frag!
at
1
least
second
somebody
before
who has
activating
access to
formation.
his office.
It's all right there.
The doctor breathed. Oh, Scrog and Scrog! Bucket moaned. So what now? He asked. The words seemed to snap Dr.
Interesting.
Sheena back to reality,
Interesting.
and she reached for the keys again, starting the process of covering her tracks, minuscule though they were.
We need to get in contact with the leader of the Loyalist Committee.
She said. Who? Bail Organa? Why him? The clone asked.
No.
Ghana?
Said the Saurian doctor.
The real leader of the Loyalists. We need to speak with the only person in the Senate with the backing and backbone to even think about doing anything about this.
She
Padme.
said. Bucket shrugged his shoulders. And who's that? He asked.
Senator Padme Amidala.
Said Sheena.
And we need to speak with her before she leaves for Axum.
Gee Willikers, Batman. So, guys, wow. For a short, that was some kind of spicy info. So, the ship that was used to ram the Imperial starship, whatever, was a gift from Palpatine. There was a tremendous transmission sent from the office of Palpatine to the captain of that ship right before he rammed it. So, either Palpatine sent that message or somebody has access to his office. I have my theories. I want to know what you guys think, but I'm thinking Jar Jar Binks. And who knows? Maybe not, but we'll see. But besides that, who do they pass this information along to? Because Shiva has a good point. Do you really tell the Jedi? Because they already have a big undertaking they have to see through. I don't know if right now is a good idea. And not that I think that any Jedi might be involved with this, but it's a possibility. You never know. So, I don't know. I don't think she should tell the Senate. I just think that that's gonna... I just could see Palpatine weaseling his way out of that. But that's my 2 cents. Tell me what you guys think. But, guys, with that being said, that's going to be the end of the episode for today. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Peace, love, happiness to you. Before you head out the door, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Beat them up for us. And always, guys, be easy. Love you guys.